Welcome to Marketing Monday, part of Art School Live. I'm Eric Rhodes from Fine Art Connoisseur and Plein Air Magazine, and happy Memorial Day. Yeah. And let's remember all those that we are remembering, right, for this very special day. Of course, it's a barbecue day for a lot of people too. So I hope you have a great day with family. If you happen to be watching today, thank you for tuning in. I don't have any live guests today because it's Memorial Day and everybody's out cooking and starting their summer. so we're here every day at 12 noon, every weekday at 12 noon. And the goal is to help you learn how to paint or how to make art, or in this case, on Mondays, it's Marketing Monday, how to market or sell your art, make a living as an artist. And by the way, artist is a broad category. So it might be an artist who makes paintings, or an artist who does photography, an artist who does pot holders. Your art, no matter what your art is, marketing is about the same for all of it. And as a matter of fact, if you want to learn about marketing and you're not an artist, this is kind of routine stuff, right? Things that you need to know that will help you think through how to market yourself and how to have the right strategy going forward. So I have some prepared questions for you. I hope you'll subscribe to this program. Just hit the subscribe button on YouTube. And of course, if you give me a follow at Eric Rhodes, that would be really terrific. Okay, so here's our first question. This comes from Simon Kidd in England, who says, my work involves manual manipulation of my digital photographs, which I can then put and print on various media like canvas, metal, wood, glass, etc. Although I have some success in direct person-to-person sales, my hybrid approach doesn't always comfortably fit in with traditional photography or art categories where third parties are involved. Third parties, I assume he means galleries, maybe. Do you have any suggestions on pitching this non-traditional type of work to increase positive exposure and achieve greater success? Well, that's a mouthful, Simon, and we'll see if we can attack it. Let me tell you a story about a friend of mine. I'm not going to use names, but this friend of mine is an artist who manipulates things in Photoshop and prints them out on various substrates, like you discussed, glass or metal and so on. And then he adds a little bit of hand painting on some of these things. And then he varnishes them with a very thick UV gloss. And he sells them for $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. And he makes $5 million a year as an artist. Does that pique your attention? And when I first met him and I learned about this, I took him to lunch and I said, okay, I want to learn all about this and how you do it. And I'm not going to get into all of the details of this, but I want you to know it's possible. So, the key in his particular case is he's selling through galleries. And his work leans modern, leans a little abstracty or pop arty. And as a result, the galleries love him because it's unique. And of course, there's a lot of galleries who carry a lot of different kinds of things. They carry photography. Some of it is fine art photography. Some of it is really crazy photography, moody. There's a lot of different things. It depends on the gallery. So I think, a really great place to try this is to begin with a gallery. Try to start experimenting with a gallery. And what you've got to do when you're talking to galleries, and I have a whole chapter on getting into galleries in my book, what you want to do is look for an opportunity to convince someone that you're going to make them money. So think about a gallery. A gallery is nothing more than a retail operation. Now, when I say gallery, I mean a gallery where you can purchase paintings. Now, in England, they call museums galleries, but in the US, we call them museums, and galleries are typically, there may be galleries within museums. It's all very confusing. Anyway, what you want to do is have a talk with somebody who sells paintings or sells photography and convince them as to why they should experiment with you and why it's going to work. Now, it's nice if you have some stories that you can tell about collector responses. It's nice if you can have some testimonial letters. It's even nicer if you can show them some check stubs or receipts or things that have proven that people are willing to pay good money for these, because a gallery has wall space. Retailers have shelf space, right? It's all the same thing. People try to get the maximum amount of money out of their shelf space or their wall space. So every gallery that I've ever been in has what they call the money wall. The money wall is the wall when you first come into the gallery. It's the wall that sets the tone. It's the first thing you see. It's usually some really big things, and it's usually a high priced item, because on the money wall, you want to have a high priced item, and then you want to have some smaller items that are exactly 2/3 lower in price. And what that does is it makes people say, oh, this painting, this artist here is a $50,000 artist, but these paintings are only, $20,000 or $10,000 or 2,000, whatever the number is. And so you get that law of comparison working for you, big versus small. It's a contrast principle, and it's a great principle in pricing, and it's a great principle in marketing. So what you want to do is try to do that. Now, the other option is, of course, there's art shows. There are I don't know about England, but there are tent shows all across America. There's a publication called Sunshine Artist, which features every art show in America, and you can go in. There's listings of hundreds of them, and you can go and apply to be in them. And then you buy yourself one of these 10 by 10 tents. You make some signage, you put some things up, and you sit in a chair and talk to people, and you work the art show. And a lot of artists make their living this way, and a lot of artists make a lot of money and make a good living. Others will do it like seasonally. They'll pick a season. Maybe they want to spend their winter in Florida, and so they'll go do 10 shows or 20 shows in Florida. I go to these things all the time. I love them. And it's a great way to see a lot of different ideas. And those are the kinds of places that you see really unique things that you don't always see in art galleries. And it's a great place to get used to learning how to sell, learning how to talk to people, learning what people respond to, how to figure it out. So I don't know if that solves your problem, but non-traditional type of work is still okay in a lot of places. But here's the deal. If you're going to, let's say you find an art gallery and they sell things that look like Turner or Hudson River School painters or John Singer Sargent or something, they're not likely going to want to push the limits. And so you want to look for somebody who's already willing to push the limits and willing to try things. Now, the other thing is inventory. Galleries love inventory. And if you can show them that you have a body of work and a lot of inventory available, that's what they want. Now, my friend who did the $5 million, he's a machine. He's a factory. He literally has employees who do nothing but print things out, and he signs them. He customizes each one, so each one's a little bit different, but he's literally spending 10 minutes on them. Then they varnish them, then they ship them out, and he's selling $5 million worth of these things. And you do the math, he's got to sell a lot of them to do that kind of number. But it's very successful for him, and the galleries love him because he moves a lot of product. So you just got to find, you've got to believe in yourself. You've got to find a way that you can get out there and push it. And that would be a good thing. So that, a gallery, a tent marketing. And then, of course, if you want to try marketing in some settings, like maybe if you're in London, maybe there's a local arts publication, or maybe there's something, maybe there's a countrywide or citywide magazine. Like my magazine is a nationwide magazine, Fine Art Connoisseur, Plein Air. So those are the kinds of things you do. So I hope that's helpful, Simon. Okay, next on this Memorial Day, we have a note from Denise Mitchell. I don't know where Denise is from, but I hope she's out having a hot dog right now. I'm kind of thinking right after this, I'm going to go fire up the barbecue, hit the beach, and do that myself. So Denise says, what are your thoughts on entering art contests to build a reputation? Well, I have really terrific thoughts about it. I know a lot about art competitions because I run one. I run the plein air salon, which is not just plein air paintings. I also am a judge for a lot of art competitions. And so I know how a judge thinks, and I know how how a competition works, and I know how people end up winning. And you can't manipulate these things. I mean, every competition has a judge, and every judge favors a particular type of art or a particular style. And some of them are very open minded to new things, and some of them are not. But the key to art competitions is there's a few things. Number one is the minute you start entering art competitions, you become a serious player. That means you're taking yourself seriously. You're trying to win against other artists. And that means that you're putting yourself out there. And that means you're starting to enter a kind of a marketing phase. This is a really great starting point for marketing. And if you're smart, you'll enter as many contests as you can, and you'll enter them every single period. Like Plein Air Salon, for instance, we have it every single month. And if you win in any category in any given month, then you're entered into the national competition for the big giveaway, like we did last week at the Plein Air Salon Awards at the Plein Air Convention. So you have an opportunity to be able to get yourself out there and to win. You also have something to talk about, because if you win, I would enter as many categories as you can. Think about this as marketing money. If you were to buy an ad in a magazine like mine, you might spend several $1,000s, but you're not likely to spend several $1,000s entering in 5 or 6 categories. Entries usually, they're $30 a piece or $20 a piece. And sometimes if you do more than one, you get a discount. And you're investing that in marketing, because think about this. If you win any category, now you have something to talk about. Hey, I just won the portrait category in the Plein Air Salon. And you're going to get publicity from that particular competition. They're going to be talking about you. And as a result, you can use that in your marketing. And then you're building resume, you're building CV, you're building things that you can talk about. And so when you go to a gallery, you could say, hey, I won the Plein Air Salon category this time, and I won this competition this time, and I was best of show in this one, and and you're not going to win them all the time, and you might not win them for a while, but you've got to get yourself out there, put yourself out there. So that's the first part of the question. So the second question Denise has is, what is my opinion on commissions? For example, I've done some artwork for some people who wanted me to adjust the work to their liking, and I hated the result. Is the customer right in this case? Well, you know what they say. The customer is always right? They're spending the money. I was telling a friend a story recently about how I did a big commission. It was a big one. It was a giant painting. I have 4 feet by 3 feet by 4 feet, something like that. It was a big, big painting. And I did it for this wealthy couple, and they were going to put it in their home, in their living room. And they told me what they wanted, and they sent me pictures of the spot. And I actually took my backpack, hiked up to the spot, did studies in plein air on location so I could get the color and feel right, did my own photographs. And then they sent me a picture of a couple of hikers that were family members, and they wanted them in the painting. And I worked on that painting literally for 2 years, on and off. And I had, personal tragedy in the middle of it. Somebody died. And so I had to stop for a little while, and I wasn't into it for a while. And so I let them know it was going to be a while. They were fine with that. But the thing that bothered me the most is that I like to have artistic license. I like to move a tree. I like to move a rock. I like to change things around. I like to go a little abstract in some areas. And my fear is that they were looking for a painted photograph. And so I kind of kept moving out of that and then moving back into it. I kind of found a happy medium. But after that, I said, I don't really want to do too many commissions anymore. And of course, I just did another one. But if somebody's not happy with it, you want them to be happy. If they say, hey, could you put a little more yellow in that? It's not what you would do, but you want a happy customer. You want somebody, and because they're going to hang it in their house and they're going to be happy with it. And their friends are going to see it. And their friends might say, oh, that's really lovely. Who did it? And they might give you a lead for another commission, or, they might say, oh, that's really ugly. Who did that? And then you're going to get blamed for it. Every artist has a different take on commissions. I think commissions are wonderful. A lot of them, the nice thing about commissions is you can raise your prices because you're going to take a lot more time typically doing a commission. I did a study. I sent a study to the people. They liked the study, they liked the direction, and then I brought it back, and then I sent another preliminary with the figures in it. They liked that, back and forth. So you're spending a lot more time on it. So you can charge a lot more than you would for a gallery painting, sometimes 2 or 3 times as much, and sometimes not. And sometimes you'll get commissions through the gallery, and they'll say, hey, the owner wants a painting of this. They saw your painting of that. They want a painting of their yard or their house or their favorite scene, but they want to pay this amount of price. And that's okay too. You've just got to decide what you're willing to do. So that's the second question from Denise. The third question is, how do our magazines and newsletters choose the artists that we showcase? Well, that's an interesting thing. I've been in the publishing business for longer than I would care to admit. And I'll tell you a couple little secrets. Squeaky wheels get the grease, right? I have artists who I hear from all the time. And they're like, sometimes they're annoying, and you want to don't be annoying. But, if once or twice a year you say, hey, here's an update on what I've been painting and here's what I'm doing. And I get those all the time. And inevitably, I'll pass one on to my editors and say, hey, that might be a good story. Or somebody sent something, they were painting all the national parks, and they sent pictures of all the parks that they had painted, and they're doing it by bus or, RV or something. And so I sent that off to my editor and I said, hey, this is a cool story idea. One of the little secrets is we're always looking for stories. And, you would think we know everybody and everything that's going on out there, and we try to, but sometimes you have a dry spell and you're in a gap, and, somebody sends something to you by email and you go, this is perfect. Now, I've gone to the extent, I did a thing, I was in a magazine, I won't mention the name of it, but because I don't want to make the editors mad, but I was sitting on an airplane one night and I was flipping through this magazine and I thought, they have this feature and I think I should be featured in that feature. So I wrote it up as if they had, just like what I saw, same kind of questions and answers. And I wrote it up and I sent it to the editors, and they published it word for word. They didn't change a thing because they had a gap to fill. If somebody sends me a pre-written story, that's helping me fill a gap. Now, it's got to be good artwork. It's got to be good story. I might change it some. And another key, you got to be willing to say, look, I did not publish this anywhere else. You have first dibs on this. I don't want to open my competitors and see the same story, and they don't want that either. And so if you burn me like that, you'll never appear in my magazine again. That's just how I am. And so, and by the way, if you burn them, same thing. So don't burn them. Say, I've given you an exclusive. I'm not sending this to anybody else. If you decide you don't want it, I'll pass it on to somebody else. That's fair. So that's kind of how that world works. Now, here's her last question. And it says, I bought art and craft items on Facebook and Etsy, and I wonder what you think about using those applications for selling. I love them. I love them, right? So I'm always looking at Facebook Marketplace. Now, usually if I'm in Facebook Marketplace, it's because I need a drill and I don't want to go buy a new one, or I'm looking for something unique. Sometimes I did car shopping on there. I did boat shopping on there. I've looked for antiques that I like on there. And once in a while, I'll see a painting in there. And I've never bought one from them, but that doesn't mean I wouldn't. There is a lot of fraud you got to be careful about. Etsy is something I use all the time. If I'm looking for a unique gift, I'll go to Etsy. And, the key to Etsy is you've got to buy placement because there are hundreds of thousands of people on Etsy and you're never going to find them. And even if you do a search and you're looking for leather portfolios, handmade leather portfolios, do a search, there's 50,000 of them in there. So you need to buy placement. That's advertising. And so you buy placement so you show up high in search, or so they recommend you. That's the key to Etsy. I think they're wonderful platforms. I see a lot of painters in there. They're beautiful. I think it's really terrific. But if you're just, it's kind of like being in the phone book. If you're just on Etsy, It's kind of like, well, I'm in the phone book, but nobody calls. Oh, I have a website, but nobody visits. You have to promote yourself. No matter what you're doing, if you have a website, you got to promote it. You're on Etsy, you promote it. Facebook, you can promote it. You can say, hey, I just put a link in here to this cool thing that I just posted, so to your followers. So I think that's good. Last but not least, Denise asked this: what about art fairs and craft shows? Other artists talk about starting out at outdoor shows. Well, I did talk a little bit about that earlier. I think personally, I don't want to do it. I've done it, and it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work putting up the tent, packing up the tent. I've had shows where I sold a lot of pieces, and I've had shows where nothing sold and nothing else had changed, right? I mean, a lot of the same paintings or same style paintings. And some people, it resonates. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it rains. I had one weekend, hardly anybody came to the show. It rained the whole time. I sat in my tent waiting for customers. They're hit and miss, but I think it's a great experience, like I said, because it's an opportunity for you to learn about how to deal with people, how to sell art, how to talk to people, how to listen to what they like, what they need. And it's a good place to get ideas. And it's a great place to get commissions. If I were going to do an art show today, knowing what I know now, I sold a lot of originals I wish I had, because I'd like to have them hanging in my house. And I probably didn't sell them for enough money. And I wish now that I had had prints of those in nice little cellophane packages and sell them for $50 each. So I sell, 10 of those in a show, and I've got the equivalent money that for an original. And I've got, a bunch of other prints from a lot of other things. I have friends who do art shows who sell a ton of prints, because a lot of people don't want to go to an art show and spend, $500 or $1,000 or $10,000. I've seen things very expensive at shows. I went to an art show the other day in Daytona Beach, and I bought a little print. I didn't want the big painting. I thought it was clever. It was neat. It was worth $25 to me, and so I bought it to remember it. But not everybody's going to buy originals, so that's why you want to do that in that instance. All right. Okay. Now we have another question from another person. This is from Joy. I don't know where Joy's from. Joy says, should you increase your prices every year? And if so, by how much? If you increase your prices, do you change the prices of your older work? Well, let me ask you this, Joy. If you compare what you paid for groceries 3 years ago versus what you pay for groceries today, the inflation rate in America has gone up 25%. And so that's huge. That means chances are your art supplies have gone up 25%. Your food has gone up 25%. And by the way, some things have gone up 50% or more or 100%. So everything is going up right now. We're in a inflationary period. Hopefully it won't last too much longer, but it depends on who gets into office, right? So, they keep printing money and keep giving money away to people. It's going to make your dollar go less, not go as far, right? So, I think, yes, you do want to raise your prices, but it depends on if you're selling, because if you're not selling now, you raise your prices, you might not sell. Now, there is evidence that expensive things send a signal. I have a story about an artist, again, no names. This artist had a painting in a gallery. It was priced at $1,000. It sat in the gallery for 6 months, didn't sell. He pulled it out, moved it to a different gallery, doubled the price, didn't sell, pulled it out, moved it to another gallery, made the price 4 times higher. It sold first week. All right. So sometimes price is a signal of quality. And so that is a possibility. So you have to judge that. So if your work is selling and you have a lot, things are selling well and you don't have a lot left over, it's time to raise your prices, because if things are selling too well, your prices are too low. And then if they continue to sell, raise them again, raise them again, raise them again if you can. I think pretty much every business knows that they have to adjust their expenses. if you go to McDonald's, you can pay $12 for a burger now. It's insane. They have to raise their prices because the price of beef has gone up more than 25%. And there's a lot of things. I went to the store the other day and bought steak. I couldn't believe how expensive it was. So, everything costs more. You've got to be willing to raise things. Now, you have to have courage to do it. Doesn't always work. You got to be willing to adjust things up or down depending on what's happening. The people who are the pros at this, they put it out at a higher price first, and then if it sells, they raise the price again. If it sells, they raise the price again until it doesn't sell anymore. Then they back it off to the last price, and that's how they set the price. That's how Samsung, the TV people, do it, from what I'm told. And there are tons of great books on Amazon and other places on pricing, not about pricing art. I'm writing a book on pricing art, but there's a lot of stuff on pricing, and all of that applies. So I hope that helps, Joy. This one is from Emily in the state of Illinois in the US of A. Emily says, would publishing the name of a high-profile buyer drive up your prices? That's interesting. I'll tell you a little story. I had a friend by the name of Mary. Mary's gone now, and she had a gallery space in Monterey, Carmel area. Carmel, I believe. And she was a really good artist and did kind of these fantasy things. And she was really struggling. She wasn't selling a lot of it. And I said to Mary, I said, do you ever get any famous people in here? And she says, yeah, all the time. And I said, have you ever sold anything to a famous person? She said, never. I said, next time a famous person comes in, strike up a conversation with them and say to them, I really love your work. I love your movies, and I don't want to be a groupie, but would you just pick something in the gallery that is a gift from me to you? Could I give you a piece of my artwork because I love what you do? And let them pick a piece of artwork out. Doesn't matter. You might want to say, well, I'll give you anything in this size range or whatever. I would do anything, quite frankly. And then she said, well, what do I do with that? And then you say, if they say, yeah, that'd be really wonderful. You say this, you say, could I have permission? Would you be okay with it? If I told people who came into the gallery, or I mentioned something in my ad that I'm in your collection, your art collection, would you be okay with that? What are they going to say? You just gave them a painting. They're going to say, sure, of course. It's very rare that they wouldn't say yes. And so, I mean, they're not going to give you an endorsement. They're not going to do an ad for you. They might not. They might say, "Don't put my picture in." Or they might. And you say, "Can I get my picture with you?" And so you have a picture with you and the star and the artwork that you sold them, and you blow that up as big as you want, and you put that in your store. You don't have to say a word. You don't have to say Steven Spielberg bought my painting. All you have to do is say nothing, right? They're going to automatically see that. I went to a hairdresser back in the 80s, back when perms were popular, and he was good at perms and I was doing perms, which is really very 80s of me. And his hairdressing salon did all the movie stars for one of the big television shows, variety shows that was in that town. And so he had pictures on the wall of all him with doing the hair of all these famous people. And he didn't have to say a word, but I wanted to go to him because he was the hairdresser to the stars. And I would say to my friends, hey, my guy cuts hair for, Donny Osmond or something. And I know that stuff sounds stupid, but this is why celebrities get paid millions of dollars to do endorsements. Because if Nespresso puts George Clooney in their ads, they're going to sell more Nespresso because everybody loves George Clooney. So you get the idea on that. And so what you want to do is look for an opportunity. Now, I have gone so far as to actually send things to people and say, I would like to have you to have a piece of my artwork. And hopefully you'll get a thank you note and an opportunity to send them an email and say, hey, may I use your name? But if somebody accepts it, you can say, you can't say they bought it because you don't ever want to lie to anybody, but you can say, by the way, this person owns one of my paintings. It might be in the garage, it might be in the trash. But you could certainly say, you certainly could say, hey, I sent one of my paintings to this person the other day. You don't have to, that's implied. You don't have to say you sold it to them, but be careful with that. I don't want to deceive anybody. Okay, here's another one. This one is from Joanna in Colorado. Joanna, happy Memorial Day. And I hope you guys are having a good Memorial Day, by the way. And thanks for tuning in today. I can't go into the comments because, I'm talking. I'm reading questions. My goal is to be the premier landscape artist locally in my little Colorado ski town within 5 years. Yay, Joanna. Congrats. I love the fact that you have a goal. She said, but my art isn't ready yet. How would you work smarter to improve your art if you know your art isn't ready yet? Well, the first thing I would say is, how do you know your art's not ready? I have so many paintings that I think are not ready that people walk into my studio and say, that's the greatest painting you've ever done. It's done. Sign it and be done with it. So I think it's a good idea to get some advice. If you can find someone, 2 or 3 people, maybe local galleries or someone like that, and say, listen, I would like you to give me a critique of my work. I'm trying to decide if I'm ready for market yet or not. I'm not asking you to put me in your gallery. I want to hear the negatives. I don't want to hear the positives. I just want to hear, am I ready or not? I need you to tell me the truth. And then say, here's a couple of my pieces, and they'll try to be nice about it, but they'll tell you if you're not ready. If you are ready, they'll tell you. And who knows, maybe they'll invite you into their gallery. It's always a good idea to get an opinion from other people. Galleries are good, other artists are good. I would avoid your friends, right? Your friends are going to tell you that you hung the moon and how wonderful you are, and also avoid friends who are not highly accomplished artists, because you want somebody who's accomplished to look at you and go, hey, yeah, you need to work on your edges, or yeah, your values are off, or there's something a little wrong with this. You need to hear that. Now, I have a lot of friends because I produce art instruction videos for painttube.tv. I've done 700 full-length, professionally produced art instruction videos with the world's leading artists. And so I can pick up the phone and call any of these, and I do. And I called a very famous artist one day. I was working on my self-portrait, and I said, something's wrong with it, but I can't see it. He looked at the picture. He said, well, you need to work on this, this, and this. Change that, move this there, darken that. And he was right. And then I sent it to him again. I said, anything else? He said, yeah, one more thing. And I changed that. And then he said, it's perfect. It's ready. It's done. So, you want to develop some friends like that who can help you, whether they're famous artists or not, but the more accomplished, the better, because they can help you, and they're going to help you determine if you're ready. Now, the second part of the question is, I also want to use this time to plan, to save, to understand marketing so that I'll be ready when the time is right. What should I be doing? That's a really great question. That's very astute of you, Joanna from Colorado, because marketing requires commitment. The minute you say to yourself, I'm going to become an artist, you may be an artist already, I'm going to become an artist who sells my artwork, then you are now a small business person. Now, you want to set some goals, and you want to say, all right, how much money do I want to make? Do I want to replace my income as a nurse or as a doctor or as a candlestick maker? Or is there a certain amount of money I want to make? Maybe I'm retiring and I want to make, an extra $10,000 a year. What is it you want? Try to determine that first, because that's going to determine how you market and sell your work. Because if you're trying to make a little extra money, you don't have to go to a lot of length. But if you're trying to replace a $500,000 income or something like that, you're going to have to do a lot of work, and you're going to have to do a lot of promotion and advertising. So you want to be thinking about, I gotta make a plan. What is my plan? What is my step-by-step plan? And I encourage you to do that. And the things you want to ask yourself about are, how committed am I? Am I going to do advertising? How much does that advertising cost? How often should I do it? I tell people, you need to do it frequently. You've got to always be there for 2 or 3 years. Every time you open up that magazine or website, you want to be there because not everybody sees everything all the time. And there's a process we go through. It's a process of unawareness, awareness, interest, and then decision. And sometimes it takes multiple impressions to get there. And so, and then of course, buying. And so sometimes somebody's ready to buy, then they forget, they get distracted, and you see another ad, they get reminded, and they go and finish their original thought of buying again. So there's a lot to all of that, but you want to save up your money because advertising is expensive. And what I tell people is dominate one thing only. Don't try to dominate three things at once. You know, people like me will dominate three things at once I've mastered one thing. But let's say you're advertising to rich, very affluent art collectors in Fine Art Connoisseur magazine. You know, pick that magazine or pick one of my competitors and just focus on them. Don't try to do too many because you don't have enough money to spread it around because you need that dominance. And so put every dime into that one publication, whatever it is, and be there every issue, the biggest you can be, right? If you're only there a quarter page, then you're known as a quarter page artist. If you're there as a half page artist, you're there as a half page artist. People who do full pages or double pages or 4-page spreads, they're known as bigger. And so you've got to try to determine how are you going to do all that. Sometimes you have to inch into it with quarter page ads, but do those quarter page ads every issue for 3 years and dominate. And what will happen is that awareness will rise and you won't see much sales in the beginning, but then all of a sudden you'll see you're getting invited to art shows, you're getting invited to jury competitions, you're getting invited to other things. Next thing you know, you're hearing from collectors. Next thing you know, you're hearing from galleries. It just builds on itself and you just keep it going. And then if you decide to switch to another publication, don't stop the one you're in because you built all that momentum. If you move that momentum to another publication, you're starting from scratch and all these people will never remember you. Out of sight, out of mind. That's how it works. Okay, so I think that pretty much does it. Let's see if there's any more question in here. Lastly, would selling underbaked art be a good idea? No. Make sure it's good. Part of your responsibility as an artist is to grow, to get better, to take workshops, to watch videos, to attend events. Look for ways that you can grow in any possible way, because even if you're good enough, you always have to get better, because what you were yesterday isn't enough. Every great artist I know is pushing themselves into new things, pushing the limits, trying new things. And so you need to do that too. So don't put anything underbaked out there, because here's what happens. And this happens, by the way, to artists all the time. Our egos get in the way. And so we're painting something and we go, oh, this is looking pretty good. I'm going to put a picture of it on social media. So you put a picture of it and you write, here's my painting of the sailboat in progress. It's not finished yet, but here's what happens when people scroll. They go boom, 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 and they stop and they go, well, that's not a very good painting. It's not finished yet. And then they go boom, 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 and they see your name, but they don't read the comment that it's unfinished. Don't put unfinished works out there. And by the way, 8 out of every 10 paintings you paint are probably not good enough to publish. Maybe if you're Richard Schmid, then it's 6 out of 8. Maybe it's 7 out of 8. But if you're not, put your best work out there. And if you have something that's crummy, don't put it out there, because marketing works both ways. Marketing works both ways. Now, I'll tell you a quick story. I used to own radio stations, and I had this radio station in Salt Lake City, brand new radio station, and I wanted to bring attention to it and get everybody excited about it. So I built this newspaper about the radio station, and it was 10 pages filled with stories about the station and the music and the things that were going on and the prizes and all that stuff. And I bought a list and I sent it to every resident in the city. It cost me $150,000 to do it. Guess what happened? My ratings went down. Everybody went and sampled the radio station, realized they didn't like it, and then they never came back. And so what I had done is I had promoted bad. You don't want to promote bad. You want to promote good. And it took me 2 years to recover from that, to get people to go back, because first off, I had to fix the radio station, make it sound better, because I didn't realize it didn't sound good. And once I got feedback and research, I made that change. So if you're promoting bad stuff, you're going to be known as a bad artist. You're promoting good stuff, you're going to be known as a good artist. If you're promoting great stuff, you know the drill. Okay, so this is Memorial Day version of Art Marketing Monday, Art Marketing Live. I mean, Art School Live. Hello, that's Memorial Day. I have it. I can make that mistake. Anyway, I'm going out for burgers now, and I hope you have a really terrific day. Thank you for tuning in, and remember, put yourself out there. You got to have the courage to do it, and get yourself ready. We'll be working on painting lessons the rest of the week. We'll see you there. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe. Just go to YouTube, you know what to hit. All right. I'm Eric Rhodes. Bye-bye.